Hey everybody, Shane here, Shoebox Legends. Thanks for tuning in for a quick episode. Just want to get to a few cards that have come in, including some gifts from a friend, longtime friend, some hobby thoughts, and just your normal smattering of content here on the channel. I'm going to get right into it, starting with a set that has been a common theme of late and really throughout my collecting career, 1990 Topps Baseball. And I finally brought home the Joe Orsulak buyback. So I've been trying to find this card in buyback format for probably 8+ years now. I am crazily working on a complete 1990 top set, but all buybacks, which I don't think you can even possibly accomplish at this point, maybe in the future. But nonetheless, I'm plugging forward. And believe it or not, I had a saved search for a Joe Orsulak 1990 buyback for about 3 years. And then I finally hit pay dirt recently when somebody listed that one. Got it for like $1 or $2, and it absolutely made my hobby week. Those are getting harder and harder for me to find now, and sometimes I go months or longer without finding a single one that I need. So hitting that Joe Orsulak was fantastic, and great reminder that you don't need to spend a lot of money to have a lot of fun or to have a very rewarding hobby experience. So Joe Orsulak, and then while we're on the 1990 Topps train, I have another of the Archive Signature Series autos. This one is from the traded release. It's the Tony Pena for my hometown Boston Red Sox, numbered to 28. This is from the 2017 Archive Signature Series release, as you can see on the label, the sticker, and the foil stamp. Autographs kind of in a darker spot on the card. It's not my personal favorite, and in addition to that, this is a traded card number 90T, which is kind of cool, being 90 Topps. But I am much more partial to the base set. You know, that is the set that I have all the memories of from childhood, collecting and opening packs. Traded set, not so much, but nonetheless, I do have a handful of these from the traded release, and this was priced to sell. Got that for, I think, about $25 shipped, and that continues a nice little streak that I've been on of adding those Archive Signature Series autos. So great new addition there, or two new additions for my 1990 Topps portion of my collection. Next up, I have a quick care package. This came in from a longtime friend of mine, Kin Kinsley, who's better known here on YouTube as Bean's Ball Card Blog. And I think I should have looked this up, and I apologize, Kin, but I think these days his channel has something to do with an IndyCar name or something like that. But I always think of him as just Kin because quite honestly, I've known Kin from before I was even on YouTube, back in the day when I used to write a blog, which I did for about a dozen years, all about baseball cards. There's a whole community of sports card bloggers, just like there is of YouTubers, and I knew Kin as part of that community. So we've probably known each other easily 10 years, maybe longer at this point. And Kin sent me this great card recently, and I'll cover up the address here, but he sent it with a Betty White stamp as well. So bonus points for that. But inside, we've got this greeting card. Kin is a fellow animal and specifically dog lover and big Leo fan in turn. And we've got a note here. Shane, hope all is well in the Diaz house. It is very busy, but going well. Here's some Z-Folio fodder that I pulled for you. If they don't make it, feel free to pass them on. Kin. And before we even look at the cards, I really appreciate Kin's sentiment. That is always my intent when I send cards to others. If they're a fit, great. If they're not, I am not offended in the least if you trade them or give them away to somebody else or sell them or whatever. Wouldn't be offended. Just love passing them on to a home where they may be more appreciated. So this is the card that I knew was coming. Kin and I are texting buddies, and he had sent me a photo of this a while back, asking if I had it for my Negro Leagues Z-Folio, which I did not. And it's from the 1987 Donruss Highlights release, kind of commemorating Ray Dandridge's election or induction to the Hall of Fame. And this will absolutely 100% go into the Negro League Z-Folio album that I'm working on. And then it looks like we have one here from the Ken Burns baseball release, I think. Yep. The Ken Burns baseball documentary, a set made by Upper Deck in the mid-90s, I think maybe 1994. And here we have Moses Fleetwood Walker, who famously predated Jackie Robinson as far as playing in the major leagues all the way back in the 1880s. So cool card there. I did not have him represented in the binder, which is like a crying shame. And so that one will go in there. And then here we have John Henry Lloyd, Pop Lloyd, he was known as. Great photograph there from 1909. These are perfect kin. Rube Foster, who famously started the formal Negro Leagues in 1920. Great photograph there that I've seen on some other cards, and another player who absolutely deserves to be in that binder. And then here's a cool one featuring this 1947 photo with Branch Rickey and Jackie Robinson. And I don't know if this will come across on video, but he's rocking the Stars and Stripes tie. Love that from Jackie. And then we close out Kin's delivery here with a Buck O'Neil, infamous photograph that I've seen before. And I've mentioned it before on the channel, but read the book that he did with Joe Posnanski, where they traveled around the country together throughout the course of a year or a season. And it gave me so much more admiration for Buck O'Neil than I had already, that he quickly became one of my favorite personalities from Baseball Pass. So I'm delighted to see that one in the card. Thank you, Kin. Let me scoop these up, set these off to the side. I think every one of those should find a place in that Negro Leagues Z folio. I got one quick hockey card here, and then we're going to return to baseball to close it out. But the important thing about this one isn't even that it's a hockey card, it's that it was a lesson in patience. I've talked about this quite a bit recently, and I need to constantly remind myself, but there's a serious temptation a lot of time in the hobby to give in to FOMO, or to feel like if you don't get this card now, you may never get it. And sometimes, in rare cases, very rare cases, I think that is true. But in the past, I've applied that mindset much more broadly than I should have. And I've been working at and improving at, quite honestly, not panic buying or FOMO buying a card, even if it's a relatively rare card. If it's just not the time, or it just doesn't make sense, then it just isn't the time, or it just doesn't make sense. And this card is an example of that. So here's the card from 2016 Upper Deck. This is the Sidney Crosby, the UD Exclusives parallel, serial numbered to 100. I've talked about this parallel many times in the history of my channel. Goes all the way back to the late 90s as a serial numbered parallel out of 100. So it has more than a 25-year pedigree. And as such, and being the flagship set on the hockey side of the house, having trouble speaking today, I'm a little rusty with my YouTubing. It is my favorite parallel in hockey. And I wanted this Crosby in particular because in 2016, he led the NHL in goals and won the Maurice Rocket Richard Trophy as the league's leading goal scorer. And I'm working on a Rocket Richard Trophy UD Exclusives collection where I'm trying to get the exclusives parallel of as many Rocket Richard Trophy winners as I can. And this card is one of the few that I was missing for months. And go back to sometime maybe mid-year last year, there was one copy of this available on ComC, ungraded, and I was really excited. It was $80 asking price or best offer. So I shot an offer for like $55, which is very generous, and in my mind was just a way to at least get the conversation started. If he had accepted it, I would have been ecstatic, but if not, I would have been happy to pay more than that, even up to his $80 asking price. But instead, what the seller did is ignored my offer and then turned around and doubled the asking price on the card up to $160. Kind of a rough move. Immediately turned me off, and I knew that was not going to be the copy of that card that I ended up with. So as painful as it was, I backed away. I left this collection incomplete for many months while I waited with a saved search. And finally, this one surfaced at open auction with like a 99-cent starting bid in my favorite grade, PSA Fine 9. And I set a pretty healthy bid because I didn't really want to lose out on this again. And really the only other option I had to get this card was the $160 ComC copy that I really didn't want to buy, even just out of spite at this point. So I set a bid, I think, of about $125 or a snipe. And wouldn't you know, I won this graded copy for a little under $80 delivered. So in the end, I got the card I wanted. I got it graded to boot, and I paid a little bit less money than I would have paid if I had just bought that unreasonable seller's copy on ComC, way back a year ago. So yes, it took me a little bit longer to complete that run of those, and so there was a penalty there or a cost there. But in the end, it's a marathon, not a sprint. I got where I was intending to go, and I saved myself some serious cash, about 50% off over panic buying that $160 copy. And now let's move back to baseball to close it out with the parallel that we thought was dead, but has been brought back from the dead, Topps Black. And I have two of them to share here. This first one I picked up, it's kind of curious. I used to buy a lot of Mike Trout cards back in the day, maybe 2016 through 2020, 21 maybe even. But the last few years with all the injuries and the fact that I already had a pretty extensive Mike Trout collection, I haven't really bought much. But I do think, he's having a relatively healthy season. And I love to see that. He's approaching 400 career home runs as I record this video. And his prices are very low compared to where they've historically been and compared to other generational great players. And so now is the time to finally acquire a Topps Black Mike Trout base card for me. Somehow I had never done that in all my years of buying his cards. And even though 2021 Topps isn't my favorite design, this was an opportunity for me to get a beloved parallel of a beloved player that is really, really tough. And I got it at a price that I just, couldn't pass up. It was, I think, somewhere around $50. So happy to have at least a Topps Black in my Mike Trout collection for that price. And I do love the photo as well. Just a great batting stance there and a clear look at the number 27. So really dig that pickup. Did not envision myself, that was a pickup of opportunity. To say that I came into, this month envisioning a 2021 Mike Trout card being one of my pickups would not be truthful. But once it popped up, price was very reasonable. Seller was willing to accept offers and even go lower than his beginning price. And in the end, brought it home. And then the other one here is a brand new one, and it's my first Topps Black since the revival of the parallel. So many of you probably know this. It was all over Hobby News earlier this year, but Fanatics made the silly decision to do away with Topps Black when they released 2025 Topps Series 1. That angered a lot of collectors, myself included. It's a beloved parallel that goes all the way back to 2003, so it has more than a 20-year history. Very similar to Upper Deck exclusives in the hockey realm. A lot of people collect and love this, and there aren't a lot of parallels left that they haven't kind of monkeyed with and messed up that go back that far. It's kind of Topps Gold, numbered to the year, and Topps Black, and everything else they've kind of butchered. And so it was a real shame when they announced the death of that parallel. But to their credit, they heard the feedback, and they've revived the parallel, and they're releasing Topps Black parallels for all cards, Series 1 and 2, in Series 2 packs. Now, unfortunately, as everybody knows, when a new release hits the market, prices are usually very high at first. So I've had to wait it out a little bit, but finally reached an agreement with the seller. Had to pay a pretty good amount of money for this, but not anything that I think is crazy, and finally got to a point of comfort for me and brought home the Aaron Judge. He is, of course, in a heated battle with Cal Raleigh of the Seattle Mariners for another home run title. But beyond that, he's a front runner for American League MVP again. And I do try to buy or get a significant card of the War Leader for every year as part of my Warlords project. So this could be a preemptive strike at that as well. But more importantly, I've really grown to like Aaron Judge as a player. And he's become someone that initially I really started collecting just because of the home run record. But since then, and given what he's done over the last few years, he just continues to impress me. And he's really defined himself as a generational great, which it didn't look like was going to be the case when he got a late start and a little bit of a slower start. I mean, he had a great rookie season, then a little bit slow for a year or two. But man, he has defined himself as one of the premier names in the game of baseball. And aside from that, this one will go nicely with the Independence Day parallel, which I was able to land earlier this year after Series 1 came out. So I've got the tandem here of my favorite parallels, Independence Day and Topps Black. I can cross off Aaron Judge for this year. Probably the only other card I would try to seek out of his is maybe a Topps Chrome Gold Refractor numbered to 50. But again, those are, I'm sure, very, very pricey at the moment. So we'll see what the future brings. But I tend to like the paper flagship parallels best anyway. So really honored and happy to have this pair in hand. And those are also the final two cards that we're going to look at today's video. Did not mean to go 15 minutes, but finally had a little bit of time. So just wanted to hop on and say hello. Hope you enjoyed a card or two that you saw today. Again, huge thanks to my buddy Kin and to everybody else who made it to the end. Hope you're enjoying the hobby. and I'll be back soon. Take care.